What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. And in this video, I'm going to talk about some of the quotes that Terry Bradshaw said in relation to the whole Eli Manning situation and Eli Manning being unexpectedly benched after only 2 weeks with the New York Giants. Now, of course, we've heard Mike Francesa come out and he said his piece and he stuck up for Eli. Bradshaw's now doing the same thing, and you kind of expect that, right? Quarterbacks stick together. Bradshaw, a former two-time Super Bowl MVP, something that he shares in common with Eli Manning. And we're going to get into all the quotes. Now, we're still all recovering, right? Yesterday was a big day in Giants history, and it was, as many people said, a bittersweet moment. Eli Manning was loved. He's loved by the fan base. Some people may not like him, but the majority of Giants fans know what he meant to this franchise. He's, in my opinion, part of the Mount Rushmore of the New York Giants franchise and the greatest quarterback in the history of their franchise. So, it was a sad day to see him get replaced finally. Of course, we all remember when he got replaced by Geno Smith, but that wasn't something that was permanent. They brought him back in. When you replace him with the 6th overall pick in Daniel Jones, I don't expect Eli Manning to ever start another game as a New York Giant unless, of course, knock on wood, Daniel Jones were to get injured, which we all hope doesn't happen. I don't think it will. So, it was a bittersweet day. You're excited about the kid, a guy that everybody's been excited about. We took him in the first round. We know Eli Manning's getting up there in age. But at the same time, I think it hit a lot of people hard, knowing that it's the end of an era. And a great era it was, as he brought us 2 Super Bowl championships and so many great memories. But I'm going to get into some of the quotes that Terry Bradshaw said about the situation, and then I'll give my thoughts on them. So there's Terry, and the first quote that came out of his mouth was, "I hope Eli is okay with it, because he's such a good dude. I hope he's okay with it. I'm sure he isn't. If they came to me in Pittsburgh after 2 weeks and they said, Terry, we're going to have to go with so-and-so, I'd shake their hands, I'd pack my bags, and I'd go home. Because that would be a hard pill to swallow after all that," Bradshaw said. "I understand why they did it, but it is a hard pill to swallow for Eli." He then later went on to say, "I feel for him. I truly do. That's a horrible position to be in after so many great years as a Giant," Bradshaw added. He then went on to say that he thinks that Eli Manning could still succeed in the league if the Patriots don't protect Tom Brady. If they don't continue to put people around him that excel, he doesn't do what he's doing, Bradshaw said. They protect him. And as you get older as a quarterback, your skills only get better. Your brain gets better. You see things quicker. If you send Manning to a good football team, I believe he would excel. I truly do. And, all right, let's speak on some of the things he said. The first thing he said was that if he was in Eli Manning's situation and, he was told that he's going to be benched after only 2 weeks into the regular season, he would pack his bags and leave. Well, let's start off with that. Eli Manning will never do that. He's way too much of a class act. He's way too much of a leader, and he takes his captain way too seriously. And early reports have come out, and I believe the deadline is late October where he'd have to make up his decision. He, of course, holds a no-trade clause, but early reports have come out that he will not waive it, and he wants to stay with the Giants as the backup quarterback to mentor Daniel Jones, and he probably feels he still has a role in molding this quarterback and helping him for his future. And Eli Manning is a true Giant. He's going to go out the right way. He will not pack his bags. The only way he'll be packing his bags is if he were to leave via trade to another team to get a chance to go and compete, which could happen, but I don't think it will. It doesn't sound as if it will. Eli Manning, of course, has a family here. He's 38 years old. He's got kids. He probably doesn't want to pack up and move and go to a place like Jacksonville. We'll have to see and wait and see how that plays out. But Eli Manning would never leave his team after getting benched. He's just not that type of guy. He's never been that guy to badmouth people. He's going to take this. Obviously he's going to be upset about it. But he's a man, and he'll regroup, and, he'll do what's best for the team going forward. And the best that he can do for this team right now is to help out Daniel Jones. And I think he'll do just that. And I always thought Eli Manning would make a great coach or, whatever, offensive coordinator, because he was always a great leader. And I think that's what he's going to do. I think that's his role with this team going forward. As far as the other thing that Terry Bradshaw said about how he thinks that Eli Manning could still be a quote-unquote great quarterback. I don't know if that was his exact quote, but a very, very productive quarterback at the NFL level. Here's my thoughts on the situation with Eli Manning. Eli Manning does not have the same skill set that he used to have. Now, you want to say his mental capacity is better? That's very possible. He's been reading defenses for 15 years. That may very well be true. But in terms of his physical attributes, no, it's not the same. But to talk to his point about Tom Brady, he's absolutely right. You could say the same thing about Drew Brees. Look at Drew Brees. Drew Brees couldn't win anything, right? For up until about 2-3 years ago when they changed this team up. He was throwing for 5,000 yards, but they'd be winning 6-7 games. Then they got a defense. They got an offensive line. They were able to establish a ground game, something that the Giants waited way too long to do here for Eli Manning. And it helped Drew Brees become a more efficient quarterback, and they won football games because they did not depend nearly as much on Drew Brees' arm as they did in the past. Now he's throwing for 4,000 yards as opposed to 5,000. He's not throwing 30 touchdowns. He's being I don't want to call him a game manager. He's still a great quarterback, but they're not putting nearly as much on his plate. They're a much more efficient team with a strong defense and a running game. And the Saints did that very well for Brees, something the Giants failed to do the later part of his career. And you can say the same thing about Tom Brady. The Patriots have done that his entire career. Surround him with the proper parts. And, of course, Bill Belichick, the most brilliant mind in the history of the NFL. Not that I'm comparing Eli Manning to those two quarterbacks, but those are examples of organizations that built the team the right way, did not fail in the draft, and fixed the holes that they had, especially the Saints. They went 4 or 5 years without having a foundation for Drew Brees, and they realized he was getting up there in age, and they were able to surround him with the pieces that needed to be given to Brees for him to still be successful. So maybe he has a bit of a point there. I don't think he'd be a great quarterback, but if you were to put Eli Manning in a situation where he had a situation like Drew Brees has in New Orleans, yeah, I think he could be a solid quarterback. I think he could win you football games. I do. Unfortunately, with the Giants, it's just not the way it is here. The defense is bad. They finally got an offensive line, but it's too little too late. For 7 years, he went without one. And it's sad to see Eli go. It really is. But we're going to move on, and we're going to support Daniel Jones. So, I'm not going to yell at Terry Bradshaw for what he said. Terry Bradshaw's entitled to his opinion. He's entitled to tell me what he would do in Eli Manning's situation, that he would pack his bags. Eli Manning will never do that because he's a Giant, and he's going to go out the right way. As always, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe. Drop a comment. Maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.